So, here I am, typing this out on Reddit because I honestly don't know where else to turn. My name's Jake, and for the past 7 years, I've been married to Emily. On the surface, we had it all, a cozy home in a nice neighborhood, jobs we liked, and a circle of friends who thought we were the perfect couple. But looking back, I realize things were never as perfect as they seemed. When we first met in college, Emily was vibrant and full of life. She had this infectious laugh and a way of making everyone around her feel special. We clicked instantly, bonding over late-night study sessions and shared dreams of the future. Fast forward to today, and while we still share those dreams on paper, something changed along the way. The first signs of trouble were subtle. Emily started staying late at work more often, citing increased responsibilities and projects. At first, I was proud of her ambition, but then she began cutting back on our date nights. I brushed it off, thinking we were just both busy, but deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Her phone became a point of contention. She always kept it on silent and out of my reach, which wasn't unusual, but the way she reacted when I asked about her day was different. There was this underlying tension, like she was hiding something. I tried to talk to her about it, but she'd brush me off with vague answers and a dismissive attitude that left me feeling more isolated. One evening, I came home early from work, hoping to surprise her with dinner. Instead, I walked into our living room and found her laughing loudly on the phone with someone I didn't recognize. It wasn't overtly inappropriate, but something about the way she interacted with him made me uneasy. It was the first time I noticed a crack in our seemingly solid relationship, and I couldn't ignore the nagging doubt that maybe, just maybe, we weren't as connected as I thought. Alright, so after that unsettling evening where I saw Emily laughing on the phone, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was seriously wrong. Over the next few weeks, those uneasy vibes only got stronger. She was even more distant, and her dismissive attitude became the norm rather than the exception. I tried to keep myself busy, throwing myself into work and hobbies, but my mind was constantly racing with questions and doubts. One Saturday morning, I decided to tackle some much-needed cleaning around the house. You know how it is, start with the garage and end up sorting through old boxes you forgot you had. As I was rummaging through a box of old photos and documents in the attic, I stumbled upon Emily's old journal. I remember us talking about how she loved writing down her thoughts, but I never thought to read it. Maybe it was silly, but curiosity got the better of me. Flipping through the pages, I found entries dating back several months. At first, they seemed normal, daily musings, plans for the weekend, reflections on work. But then, things took a darker turn. There were mentions of feeling trapped, arguments that didn't involve me, and a recurring theme of meeting someone new who made her feel alive again. My heart started pounding as I read passages that clearly pointed to multiple affairs. Names like Michael, Ryan, Tyler, Brandon, and Kevin kept popping up alongside dates and vague descriptions of intimate meetings. I couldn't believe what I was reading. Was Emily keeping all of this from me? My hands were shaking as I scrolled further, finding text snippets and even some printouts of messages she had clearly copied from her phone. There were explicit mentions of sex, something I thought was sacred between us. Each name represented another layer of betrayal, and I felt like the ground was crumbling beneath me. Just as I was trying to process the enormity of what I'd found, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my friend, Matt. "Dude, saw you with Emily last night at the bar. Didn't know you two were still going out like that." My stomach dropped. How had Matt known? I hadn't mentioned going out, especially not with Emily. Panic set in as I realized the web of deceit was even more tangled than I initially thought. I had no idea how to confront Emily with this newfound evidence. Should I confront her immediately, or take some time to gather my thoughts? My mind was a whirlwind of emotions, anger, hurt, confusion. All I knew was that our perfect facade was shattered, and there was no going back to the way things were. As the day went on, I couldn't focus on anything else. Every little interaction with Emily felt loaded with tension. I kept replaying the journal entries and Matt's message over and over in my head, trying to make sense of it all. Okay, so after spending the entire day spiraling into this mess of a discovery, I knew I couldn't keep it bottled up any longer. It was either confront Emily or let this poison our relationship from the inside out. I decided to go for it that evening. Deep down, a part of me hoped it was all some big misunderstanding or that the journal was a figment of my stressed-out imagination. I walked into the kitchen where Emily was making dinner, something she rarely did anymore, since she usually ordered takeout or had her meals prepared by some friend. The smell of garlic and herbs filled the air, but it did nothing to soothe my nerves. She looked up, her eyes meeting mine with that familiar spark that used to make my heart skip a beat. Now, it just made me more anxious. "Emily, we need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She sighed loudly, setting down the knife she was holding and wiping her hands on a towel. "Oh, what is it this time, Jake? Can't handle me working late again?" Her tone was sharp, defensive almost, and it stung more than I expected. I took a deep breath. "It's not just about work. I found your journal." Her face went from defensive to outright hostile in a split second. "What? How did you get that?" I hesitated, not sure how much to reveal. "I was cleaning the attic, and it was just lying there. I read some of the entries." She rolled her eyes, crossing her arms over her chest. "Great. Now you're reading my private thoughts? What else have you been snooping through, huh?" My anger flared. "I trusted you, Emily. Those entries, they talk about meeting different men. 5 of them, to be exact." Her expression hardened. "Oh, so now you're a detective? Maybe you should check your own shortcomings before pointing fingers at me." I felt a surge of frustration. "You expect me to believe that you're just stressed at work and that's why you're distant? The journal says otherwise. There are names, Michael, Ryan, Tyler, Brandon, and Kevin. And it talks about sex with each of them." She laughed bitterly. "Sex? Seriously, Jake? You think I'd go around having sex with multiple guys? You're delusional." I shook my head, tears welling up. "Don't lie to me, Emily. I saw the messages, the dates. How many times have you done this?" 5 times? Her eyes narrowed. "Maybe you're just paranoid. Maybe Matt is lying to you. Or maybe you're the one who's been cheating and trying to cover it up with fake journal entries. Ever think of that?" I felt like the floor was crumbling beneath me. "What? No. You're the one who's been unfaithful. How could you do this to us?" She stood up abruptly, pacing the kitchen floor. "I did what I had to do, Jake. Maybe I needed something more exciting than your boring-ass life. Maybe you weren't providing the sex I craved." Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. Providing sex? We've had a good sex life. At least, I thought we had. She stopped and glared at me. "Well, clearly, you didn't. Maybe I needed variety, something you couldn't give me. I've been honest about my needs, but you just dismissed them." I felt a mix of disbelief and heartbreak. "Honest? You've been lying to me for months. 5 men? How do you even manage that?" She shrugged, her attitude unyielding. "I don't know. Maybe I'm just better at multitasking than you thought." At this point, I was beyond angry. I wanted to yell, to cry, to scream at her for the betrayal. But instead, I just stood there, numb. "I don't know what to say, Emily. I don't know how to fix this." She scoffed, turning away. "Maybe you should figure that out on your own. I've already made up my mind about what I want." With that, she walked out of the kitchen, leaving me standing there with the shattered pieces of my life scattered around me. The confrontation had been everything I feared and more. Her bitchy demeanor and constant lies had finally come to the surface, and now there was no turning back. As I sat down at the dining table, the weight of her betrayal pressed down on me. I felt a whirlwind of emotions: anger, sadness, confusion, and a deep sense of loss. How did we go from being so in love to this? I kept replaying the conversation in my head, trying to find any sign that I could have done something differently, any clue that could have saved our marriage. After Emily stormed out of the kitchen, I felt like the world had stopped spinning. I stood there for a few minutes, trying to process everything that had just happened. My mind was a tangled mess of thoughts and emotions: betrayal, anger, sadness, and a profound sense of loss. It was like watching the foundation of our marriage crumble right before my eyes. I decided to take a walk to clear my head, hoping that some fresh air would help me sort through the chaos inside. As I stepped outside, the chilly December air hit me, but it did little to soothe the turmoil within. I wandered aimlessly through our neighborhood, passing by houses adorned with holiday decorations that now felt painfully ironic. Everyone else seemed to be enjoying their lives, oblivious to the nightmare unfolding in mine. Back at home, I tried to distract myself by focusing on practical matters. Bills needed to be paid, groceries had to be bought, and our shared responsibilities couldn't just be ignored. But every task felt monumental, weighed down by the recent revelation of Emily's infidelity. I found myself repeatedly glancing at the journal tucked away in a drawer, a constant reminder of the lies and deceit. That evening, I decided to reach out to Matt, the friend who had sent me that cryptic message. Maybe he could shed some light on what was really going on. After a few rings, he picked up. "Hey, Matt. It's Jake," I began, trying to keep my voice steady. "Jake. Long time no talk, man. What's up?" Matt's tone was casual, but I could sense something was off. "I need to talk to you about Emily. Do you have a minute?" There was a brief pause before Matt replied, "Yeah, sure. Everything okay?" I took a deep breath. "Actually, no. I found Emily's journal, and it mentioned meeting several other guys. Plus, your message last week. Can you tell me what's going on?" There was a moment of silence on the other end. "Jake, I didn't mean to mess things up. I just thought you guys were going through a rough patch, and I saw Emily at the bar. I didn't know she was." I cut him off, frustration bubbling to the surface. "Rough patch? 5 men, Matt. It's more than a rough patch. I need the truth." Matt sighed. "Look, Jake, I don't know all the details, but Emily confided in me a little. She said she felt neglected and was looking for something she wasn't getting at home. I didn't think it was serious, but clearly, I was wrong. I'm sorry, man." The conversation left me feeling even more isolated. I realized that not only was Emily lying to me, but the people I trusted were either unaware or unwilling to help. The weight of betrayal was crushing, and I felt utterly alone in this battle. As days turned into weeks, the unexpected events kept piling up. Emily moved out temporarily, saying she needed space to think. Friends and family took sides, some offering support while others questioned my role in the marriage's demise. The emotional roller coaster was relentless. One moment I'd feel numb, the next a surge of anger would consume me. One night, while sifting through Emily's phone looking for more evidence, I stumbled upon photos from one of her supposed date nights. To my horror, there was a picture of her with another man, someone I didn't recognize, standing outside a strip club. My blood boiled. How could she be so blatant, so unashamed? Determined to get to the bottom of this, I decided to confront each of the men mentioned in her journal. The first was Michael. Reaching out to him was like opening Pandora's box. Michael was polite but evasive, refusing to discuss anything beyond a casual acquaintance. It was clear he didn't want to be involved, but the uncertainty gnawed at me. Next was Ryan, who surprisingly agreed to meet. Over coffee, Ryan admitted to having a fling with Emily but insisted it was harmless, something that couldn't possibly compare to what we had. His words did little to alleviate my pain. If anything, they confirmed the depth of Emily's betrayal. Tyler, Brandon, and Kevin followed similar patterns. Some denied anything significant, while others admitted to brief encounters but claimed it was all in the heat of the moment. Each conversation left me feeling more hollow, realizing that Emily had systematically strung together multiple relationships to satisfy her cravings. Amidst all this, another unexpected twist emerged. I received a call from a lawyer. Turns out, Emily had taken out a significant life insurance policy recently, and with her moving out, things were getting legally complicated. The legal battles added another layer of stress, forcing me to confront not just the emotional devastation but also the practical implications of her actions. Through it all, I found myself oscillating between wanting revenge and seeking closure. Nights were the hardest, lying awake and replaying every memory, every moment that led us to this point. The pain was unbearable, but slowly, I began to see a path forward, one that didn't involve the constant turmoil and heartache. Acceptance didn't come overnight. It was a gradual process, punctuated by moments of clarity and bursts of overwhelming emotion. I sought therapy, leaned on a few true friends, and started rebuilding my life piece by piece. The journey was far from easy, but with each passing day, the weight of betrayal began to lift, replaced by a cautious hope for the future. Just when I thought I was starting to get a handle on the chaos Emily had unleashed, life threw another curveball my way. It all began with that phone call from the lawyer about the life insurance policy. I'd barely processed that piece of the puzzle when I received another unexpected message from an unknown number. The message was short and cryptic: "We need to talk about Emily. Urgent." At first, I dismissed it as another one of Emily's attempts to manipulate the situation, but something in my gut told me to be cautious. Ignoring it wasn't an option, not when everything was already falling apart. I decided to respond, keeping my reply simple: "Who is this?" The reply came almost immediately: "James Carter, Emily's attorney. Meet me at the office tomorrow at 10 a.m. Don't be late." My heart raced. James Carter wasn't just any attorney, he was a high-profile lawyer known for handling complex and often shady cases. If Emily had brought him into the picture, there had to be more to her story than just infidelity and a life insurance policy. My mind raced with possibilities: debts, hidden assets, maybe even something illegal. The next morning, I found myself nervously walking into James Carter's sleek, glass-walled office. He greeted me with a firm handshake and a stern expression that immediately set me on edge. "Jake, please, have a seat," he said, motioning to the chair across from his desk. "I understand you've had some troubling experiences with Emily." I nodded, taking a seat. "Yeah, it's been a nightmare." "What do you want to tell me?" James leaned forward, his eyes intense. "I represent Emily in several matters, including the life insurance policy you mentioned. However, there are additional concerns that you should be aware of." My confusion deepened. "Concerns? What kind of concerns?" He paused, then slid a folder across the desk. "Emily has been involved in some questionable activities, Jake. Financially and legally. The life insurance policy was just the beginning. She's been embezzling funds from her workplace, and there are ongoing investigations into her dealings with some unsavory characters." My mind was reeling. Embezzling? How was I supposed to process not only her betrayal in our marriage but also her involvement in criminal activities? "Why are you telling me this?" James sighed. "Because your name is tied to her in several of these cases. There are legal implications that could affect you directly. I recommend you seek legal counsel immediately." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with another message. It was from Emily: "If you think you've uncovered the truth, you haven't seen anything yet. Meet me tonight at our favorite spot, and maybe I'll explain everything. My head was spinning. Not only was Emily cheating on me, but she was also involved in criminal activities, and now she's reaching out for a meeting? The pieces of the puzzle were coming together, but the picture they formed was more complicated and terrifying than I could have imagined. Determined to get answers, I agreed to meet her that evening. As the day progressed, the weight of everything I'd learned pressed down on me. I contacted a lawyer I trusted to get advice on both the personal and legal fronts. Between consultations, therapy sessions, and trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy, the days blurred into a haze of stress and uncertainty. That evening, I drove to our favorite spot, a quiet lakeside park where Emily and I had shared countless memories. The sun was setting, casting a golden hue over the water, but the beauty of the scene did nothing to calm my nerves. I spotted Emily sitting on a bench, looking more vulnerable than I'd ever seen her. "Jake," she greeted me softly, her usual bitchy demeanor replaced by something else, fear, maybe? I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "We need to talk, Emily. All of it." She looked away, fidgeting with her hands. "I know. There's so much you don't understand." Before I could push further, a loud crash echoed from the nearby trees. We both turned to see a group of people approaching, men I didn't recognize, some of whom I recognized from the list of her affairs. Panic surged through me as I realized I wasn't just dealing with marital issues, Emily was entangled in something much darker. One of the men, a tall guy with a menacing presence, stepped forward. "We need to settle some things," he said, his voice low and threatening. "Emily owes us." My heart pounded. This was no ordinary cheating situation, there were dangerous elements involved. Emily looked terrified, and I could see why James Carter had felt the need to warn me. Before things could escalate further, a police siren wailed in the distance, growing louder by the second. The men glanced around nervously, and without another word, they turned and fled into the darkness. The siren continued to approach, and within moments, police cars arrived, lights flashing and officers rushing toward us. An officer approached, looking between Emily and me with a mix of curiosity and concern. "Is everything okay here?" he asked. Emily took my hand, tears streaming down her face. "No, officer. It's not okay. They're dangerous men, and they're after me." The officer's expression softened. "We'll help you. Let's get you both somewhere safe." As we were escorted to safety, the full scope of Emily's situation began to sink in. Her lies weren't just about our marriage, they were part of a much larger, more sinister web. I felt a surge of protectiveness mixed with confusion. Why hadn't she told me any of this before? What was her game? Sitting in the back of a police car, watching the chaos unfold, I realized that my journey was far from over. The unexpected events were piling up, and each revelation was more shocking than the last. All right, so things have gone from bad to worse faster than I could have ever imagined. After that tense evening at the lakeside park, where Emily and I were practically ambushed by those threatening men, I'm still trying to piece everything together. Sitting in the back of that police car was like being trapped in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. But there's no escaping reality now, so here I am, digging deeper into the mess Emily has created. First off, let me catch you up. After the police intervened, Emily and I were taken to the station for questioning. The officers were thorough, trying to get the full story. Emily was visibly shaken, tears streaming down her face, and I could see the fear in her eyes. It was a side of her I'd never seen before, no more bitchy, lying facade, just pure vulnerability. But instead of comforting her, I was left grappling with a million questions. Once we were released with no immediate charges, I knew I had to take matters into my own hands. If Emily was involved in something as serious as embezzlement and dealing with dangerous men, I needed to understand the full extent. So, I started by going through her emails and documents again, this time more meticulously. What I found was a labyrinth of deceit, hidden bank accounts, encrypted messages, and contracts with shady businesses. One name kept popping up: Marcus Thompson. He wasn't one of the 5 men she cheated with, but he seemed to be at the center of her illegal activities. Marcus was a high-level manager at her company, someone I thought I knew. But now, he appeared to be orchestrating a complex web of fraud and money laundering. The deeper I dug, the more it became clear that Emily was just a small part of a much larger scheme. Determined to uncover the truth, I decided to confront Marcus directly. I arranged a meeting at a local coffee shop, hoping to catch him off guard. When he arrived, he was every bit the suave, confident man I had known. But beneath that veneer, I could sense the danger he posed. "Jake, nice to see you," Marcus greeted, his tone smooth but his eyes cold. "I need answers, Marcus. What the hell is going on with Emily?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady despite the knot in my stomach. Marcus sighed, leaning back in his chair. "Jake, you have to understand, Emily was in over her head. She got involved with us to help pay off some personal debts. It wasn't supposed to go this far." "Personal debts? Are you saying she was using me?" I felt a surge of anger mixed with confusion. "Not using you, Jake. Emily was a victim, too. She didn't know the full extent of what she was getting into. Marcus and we've been trying to help her, but things got complicated." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Emily: "Meet me at home tonight. I have to explain everything." My heart raced. After everything that had happened, why would she reach out like this? Was she trying to manipulate the situation further, or was there some truth behind her facade? I decided to follow my gut and went back home that evening, finding Emily waiting for me on the porch. She looked different, less guarded, more open, but still carrying that air of desperation. "Jake, please, sit down," she pleaded, her eyes searching mine for some semblance of trust. I did, taking a deep breath. "All right, Emily. Explain everything. From the cheating to the criminal stuff." She took a shaky breath, then began to unravel her story. "I know it sounds crazy, but I got involved with those 5 men for different reasons. Each relationship was a way to cope with something: stress, loneliness, feeling trapped. But then Marcus approached me. He offered me a way out of financial ruin, promising that I could help him with some projects at work that would pay off my debts." As she spoke, pieces of the puzzle started to fit together. Her embezzlement was a means to fund these projects, but things spiraled out of control. "I never wanted any of this to happen, Jake. I thought I could handle it, but Marcus is ruthless. When I tried to back out, he threatened me and made sure I had no way out without complying." Tears welled up in her eyes. "I didn't know how to tell you. I thought if I could manage it all, we could get back to the life we wanted. But I was wrong. I'm so sorry." Before I could respond, the sound of sirens filled the air again. This time, it wasn't the police, it was something else, heavier, more ominous. We both looked up to see Marcus and his men emerging from the shadows, their expressions menacing. "Time's up, Emily," Marcus declared, stepping forward. "You have one last chance to cooperate, or things will get messy." My protective instincts kicked in. "Leave us alone, Marcus. You have no right to threaten us." He smirked. "Oh, but I do, Jake. You see, Emily here isn't the only one indebted to us. Your involvement with her makes you part of this too." Panic surged through me. This wasn't just about Emily anymore, it was about survival. I glanced at Emily, who looked terrified, realizing the full extent of the danger we were in. Just as Marcus was about to make a move, the sound of more sirens echoed louder. The police were arriving again, and this time, they weren't backing down. Officers swarmed the area, guns drawn, and quickly engaged Marcus and his men in a standoff. In the chaos, Emily and I managed to slip away, hearts pounding, adrenaline surging. We didn't stop running until we reached a nearby hotel, where we could finally catch our breath and process what had just happened. Sitting in the hotel room, the reality of our situation hit me hard. Emily wasn't just the bitchy liar I thought she was entangled in a dangerous criminal network, and now, so was I by association. The emotional impact was staggering. Anger still burned within me for her betrayal, but fear and concern for our safety overshadowed everything else. As the hours passed, I couldn't help but wonder what the future held for us. Could we survive this onslaught of lies, danger, and unexpected twists? Or was this the final nail in the coffin of our already crumbling marriage? One thing was clear: I needed to dig even deeper, not just to uncover the truth about Emily, but to protect myself and find a way out of this nightmare. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with more secrets and threats than I could have ever anticipated. Alright, so here we are, deep in the trenches of what feels like a never-ending legal nightmare. After that harrowing night at the lakeside park, Emily and I checked into a nearby hotel, desperately trying to distance ourselves from Marcus and his crew. Little did I know, stepping into that hotel room was like entering a labyrinth with no clear exit. The first thing I did was call my lawyer, Sarah. She's been a solid friend and an incredible attorney, and I needed her expertise more than ever. As soon as she picked up, I spilled everything: Emily's affairs, the journal, the confrontation with Marcus, and the threats we just endured. "Jake, this is serious," Sarah said, her voice steady but filled with concern. "You need to stay calm and gather all the evidence you have. I'll start by contacting the authorities to inform them of your situation." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "What about Emily? Should I be worried she might try something?" Sarah paused. "It's possible. Given the circumstances, she might be trying to manipulate the situation further. I recommend having her stay with you, at least until we have a clearer picture." We agreed on a plan, and I called Emily, convincing her to stay put while I handled the legal aspects. She reluctantly agreed, and I felt a slight sense of relief knowing she wasn't out there somewhere with Marcus. But that relief was short-lived. The next morning, I woke up to a flurry of phone calls and emails from the police. Apparently, Marcus's men had been apprehended during the standoff, but the investigation was far from over. They were looking into Emily's financial dealings and her connections to these dangerous individuals. The legal maze was expanding, and I was right in the middle of it. Sarah and I met at her office to strategize. She laid out the roadmap. First, we needed to secure my legal standing, ensuring that I wasn't implicated in any of Emily's fraudulent activities. Then, we'd work on untangling the web she'd spun around herself and those 5 men. "Do you have any documentation of your finances? Bank statements, tax returns, anything that shows your financial independence from Emily's actions?" Sarah asked. I rummaged through my drawers, pulling out every piece of paperwork I could find. "I thought about that, but honestly, I don't have much. We merged our finances years ago, and I didn't keep separate records." Sarah nodded. "We'll need to work with an accountant to separate your financials legally. It's going to be a tedious process, but it's essential for your defense." As days turned into weeks, the legal battles intensified. Emily stayed with me, but the tension between us was palpable. Her once bitchy and lying demeanor had given way to a mixture of fear and desperation. I could see the toll this was taking on her, but trust was completely shattered. One afternoon, as I was sifting through Emily's emails for any incriminating evidence, I stumbled upon a thread that blew everything wide open. It wasn't just about her affairs or her financial misdeeds, it was about blackmail. Marcus had been using information about her affairs and financial crimes to control her, threatening to expose everything if she didn't comply with his demands. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just a case of a cheating wife gone rogue, it was a full-blown criminal enterprise that had ensnared both of us. Emily had been a pawn in Marcus's game, and now I was an unintended player. When I confronted Sarah with this new information, her expression was grim. "This changes things, Jake. If Marcus is using your relationship with Emily to leverage both of you, we need to take a different approach. We might have a case for coercion and extortion here." I felt a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. Maybe there was a way out after all. But just as we were starting to outline our new strategy, another bombshell hit me: Emily had gone missing for a day. I returned home after work to find her apartment empty, no note, nothing. Panic set in. I called Sarah immediately. "Emily's not here. She was supposed to be at home all day." Sarah's voice was tight with worry. "Have you contacted the police? Given the circumstances, it might be necessary." I did, and within hours, an officer arrived to file a missing persons report. The investigation was now taking a darker turn. Was Emily being held by Marcus, or had she decided to disappear to escape the mess? Days passed with no sign of Emily. The uncertainty was agonizing. I couldn't focus on anything, work was a blur, and every time my phone rang, I braced myself for bad news. The legal maze wasn't just a battle in the courtroom anymore, it was bleeding into every aspect of my life. Then, out of the blue, I received an anonymous tip. A voice on the other end of the phone said, "If you want Emily back, meet us at the old warehouse on 5th Street tonight. Come alone." My heart raced. Was this a trap? Or was there a genuine chance to save Emily? I discussed it with Sarah, and she reluctantly agreed that I might have to take the risk to find her. But she insisted on having a plan in place, ensuring my safety as much as possible. That evening, I arrived at the designated location, the old warehouse looking eerie under the dim streetlights. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions: fear, determination, and a desperate need to bring Emily back safely. I stepped inside, the musty smell of the abandoned building filling my nostrils. A shadowy figure approached me, their face obscured. "Jake, we don't have much time," they whispered urgently. "Emily's life is in danger. Marcus isn't the only one after her. There are higher-ups who want her gone." I took a step forward, my voice shaky but resolute. "What do you want from me?" The figure handed me a USB drive. "This has everything you need to expose Marcus and his network. But you have to use it wisely. It's your only chance to save Emily and yourself." Before I could ask any more questions, the figure vanished into the darkness, leaving me alone with the USB drive clutched tightly in my hand. My mind raced with possibilities. Was this a genuine lifeline or another manipulation by Marcus? I left the warehouse, the weight of the USB drive pressing heavily in my pocket. As I drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling that every second counted. Back at Sarah's office, we reviewed the contents of the drive. It was a goldmine of evidence: emails, financial records, recordings of conversations, all linking Marcus to a vast network of criminal activities far beyond what we initially knew. "This is it, Jake," Sarah said, her eyes scanning the documents. "This could bring Marcus down for good. But we need to be careful. If he knows we have this, he'll stop at nothing to get it back." With this new evidence, we formulated a plan to take Marcus down legally while protecting ourselves from his retaliatory tactics. But just as we were gearing up to present the evidence to the authorities, another unexpected event threw everything into chaos. One morning, I woke up to find our car vandalized, windows smashed, the engine damaged. A clear warning that Marcus wasn't done yet. The legal maze was tightening its grip, and escaping it felt more impossible than ever. Through it all, my emotions swung wildly. The initial shock and anger had evolved into a complex mix of determination and lingering hurt. Emily's absence weighed heavily on me, but the drive to uncover the truth and protect myself had become my new focus. As I navigated this intricate web of lies, deceit, and danger, I couldn't help but wonder if there was any way out. Just when I felt like I was drowning in this sea of chaos, something, or rather, someone, unexpected happened. After the car vandalism incident, Sarah and I were on high alert. Every phone call, every knock on the door made my heart race with fear. The legal maze was suffocating, and Marcus's reach seemed endless. I was on the verge of losing hope when an unexpected ally stepped into my life. It happened one evening when I was returning home from a late meeting with Sarah. The sun had long set, and the streets were eerily quiet. As I approached my house, I noticed a black SUV parked a few blocks away, its windows tinted so dark I couldn't see inside. My instinct screamed that something was wrong, but I tried to shake off the uneasy feeling. As I pulled into the driveway, a figure emerged from the shadows, a woman I didn't recognize. She approached me cautiously, her eyes scanning the surroundings before settling on mine. "Jake?" she asked, her voice steady but carrying an undercurrent of urgency. I frowned, trying to place her. "Do I know you?" She took a deep breath, pulling out a badge from her jacket. "I'm Agent Laura Mitchell with the FBI. We need to talk." My mind raced. The FBI? What could they possibly want with me? Given everything that had happened, it didn't seem entirely out of the question, but still, it felt surreal. "Why are you here? What do you know about Marcus?" Agent Mitchell glanced around before stepping closer. "I've been following Marcus Thompson for a while now. He's involved in a much larger criminal network than you realize: drug trafficking, money laundering, human trafficking, the list goes on. When Emily got involved, she unwittingly became a pawn in his game." My heart pounded. So, Emily wasn't just cheating? She was part of something much bigger? She nodded solemnly. "Yes. And when you stumbled upon the USB drive, you provided us with the key evidence we needed to move against him. But Marcus is highly dangerous and resourceful. He won't go down without a fight, and that's why you need to stay safe." I felt a mix of relief and anxiety. Relief that there was hope for bringing Marcus down, but anxiety about the repercussions. "What do you need from me?" Agent Mitchell handed me a business card. "I need you to cooperate fully. We have a team ready to take down Marcus, but he's expecting retaliation. We need your help to ensure your safety and to provide any additional information you might have. We can offer you protection, witness security, and legal assistance." I took the card, my mind spinning with the possibilities. An FBI agent, this was the lifeline I didn't know I needed. "All right. What's the next step?" She smiled reassuringly. "First, come to our office tomorrow morning. We'll go over everything and get you set up with protection. In the meantime, avoid any contact with Marcus or his associates. We're going to need all the information you've gathered so far." As she turned to leave, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, there was a way out of this nightmare. But just as she was about to exit, my phone buzzed with another message from Emily: "Don't trust anyone. They're watching us." A chill ran down my spine. Was this a genuine warning, or another manipulation from Emily? The uncertainty gnawed at me. Agent Mitchell noticed my hesitation. "Is everything okay?" I showed her the message. Her expression grew serious. "This complicates things. We need to verify if this is coming from Emily or if someone is trying to deceive you. It's possible Marcus has people infiltrating your communications." I nodded, feeling the weight of the situation settle back onto my shoulders. "What should I do?" "Don't respond to the message. Instead, bring your phone to our office so we can run a security check. It's crucial to ensure that your communications haven't been compromised," Agent Mitchell instructed. The next morning, I met Agent Mitchell at the FBI office. The place was buzzing with activity, agents moving briskly, phones ringing, and the constant hum of urgency in the air. She led me to a secure conference room where a team of agents awaited. We spent hours going through the USB drive, the evidence it contained, and the information I had gathered so far. Agent Mitchell was thorough, asking detailed questions and making sure every piece of the puzzle was accounted for. It was exhausting, but I felt a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in months. During one of our breaks, Agent Mitchell pulled me aside. "Jake, there's something else you need to know. We've identified a mole within Marcus's organization. Someone he trusts implicitly, someone who can provide us with insider information." I raised an eyebrow. "Who is it?" She hesitated for a moment before answering. "It's someone you might know, someone close to you. We believe they can help us bring Marcus down from the inside." My mind raced, trying to think of who it could be. Friends? Family? Colleagues? The possibilities were endless, and none felt right. How? "We can't disclose too much right now, but this person has been feeding us information for a while. They're ready to make contact, but it's risky. We need you to be prepared for anything." As the day went on, the sense of hope was tempered by the looming threat of Marcus and his network. But Agent Mitchell's presence provided a beacon of light in the darkness. I realized that navigating this legal maze wasn't something I could do alone anymore. That evening, as I sat in my hotel room, processing everything, my phone buzzed again. This time, the message was different: "Meet me at the usual place. We need to talk." The usual place was the lakeside park where Emily and I had shared so many memories, now tainted by betrayal and danger. My heart sank. Was this another trap set by Marcus? Or was Emily trying to reach out in some twisted way? Before I could decide, Agent Mitchell called. "Jake, we have a development. Your unexpected ally is ready to meet you. They have crucial information that can help us take down Marcus once and for all." Relief washed over me. "Where?" "We'll arrange a secure meeting point. Follow our instructions carefully, and stay safe." As I hung up, I felt a renewed sense of determination. The pieces were finally starting to align, and with the FBI's involvement, there was a real chance to dismantle Marcus's empire. But the path ahead was still fraught with danger and uncertainty. I couldn't help but wonder who this mole was and how deeply Marcus's influence ran. With Agent Mitchell's guidance and the promise of an unexpected ally, I felt a spark of hope amidst the turmoil. Maybe, just maybe, there was a way out of this legal maze after all. Alright, buckle up because things are about to get even crazier. If you thought the last few weeks were a roller coaster, wait until you hear what happened next. I'm still trying to process everything that's going on, but here we go. After Agent Mitchell's call about the unexpected ally, I was both anxious and hopeful. The FBI had arranged a secure meeting point for me to meet this mole who supposedly had crucial information to help take down Marcus Thompson. Given the stakes, I couldn't afford to hesitate. The meeting was set for the next evening at an abandoned library on Maple Street, a place that had more dust than people, perfect for a clandestine encounter. I arrived early, heart pounding, scanning the darkened building for any signs of movement. The air was thick with tension, and every creak of the old structure made me jump. Just as I was about to leave, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was someone I never expected, Sarah, my lawyer and friend. My mind raced. Sarah had always been supportive, but why would she be involved with Marcus? "Jake," she whispered urgently, glancing around nervously. "We need to talk." I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "Sarah? What are you doing here?" She looked around before stepping closer. I didn't have a choice. Marcus found out about our plan to take him down, and he threatened to expose everything, my past, my family, everything. I had to protect them. My confusion deepened. "What are you talking about? I thought you were helping me legally." She nodded, her eyes filled with desperation. "I am, but Marcus has leverage over me. He knows things, dark things from my past that I thought were long buried. If he doesn't keep me in line, he'll ruin everything. My mind was spinning. Sarah, why didn't you tell me earlier? Tears welled up in her eyes. I wanted to protect you, Jake. I thought I could handle it on my own, but I was wrong. Marcus is more dangerous than we realized. Before I could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed through the library. Panic surged through me as I saw Marcus and two of his men entering the building, their expressions cold and threatening. Marcus! I called out, trying to maintain some semblance of authority. What are you doing here? Marcus smirked, his eyes gleaming with malice. Jake, always a pleasure. I see you've brought a friend. Sarah stepped forward, her voice trembling but resolute. Jake, run. Now. But it was too late. Marcus snapped his fingers, and his men closed in on us. You thought you could outsmart me? You think you can just bring down my entire operation? He taunted, advancing toward us. Before things could escalate further, Agent Mitchell and a team of FBI agents burst through the entrance, weapons drawn. Freeze! FBI, she commanded, her voice unwavering. Chaos erupted instantly. Shots were fired, and a scuffle broke out as the FBI moved to apprehend Marcus and his men. In the midst of the chaos, Marcus lunged at me, but an agent tackled him to the ground, pinning him down. I looked over to see Sarah being handcuffed, her eyes meeting mine with a mix of fear and sorrow. I'm sorry, Jake, she whispered before being led away. As the dust settled, Agent Mitchell approached me, her expression a mix of relief and concern. Are you okay? I nodded, still in shock. Yeah, I think so. But what just happened? She took a deep breath. We had to move quickly. Marcus was becoming too unpredictable, and we couldn't let him escape. Sarah was caught in the crossfire, but she's safe now. She's going to face charges for her involvement, but we believe she can cooperate with us to take down the rest of Marcus's network. The weight of everything hit me hard. Sarah, someone I trusted implicitly, had been compromised by Marcus's manipulation. It felt like another layer of betrayal on top of everything else. As the FBI secured the area and began processing the scene, I couldn't help but reflect on how deeply Marcus had infiltrated our lives. From Emily's affairs to Sarah's past, it was like a spider's web tightening around me, each strand connecting to something dark and sinister. Back at the hotel, Agent Mitchell debriefed me on the night's events. Marcus is not going down without a fight. He's well connected and has resources we haven't even uncovered yet. But tonight was a significant blow to his operations. I felt a flicker of hope amidst the despair. Maybe, just maybe, we were making progress. But the cost was high. Sarah's involvement and now Emily's disappearance weighed heavily on me. Determined to find Emily and untangle the remaining threads, I decided to dig into my own past. If Marcus could leverage Sarah's history, maybe there was something in my past that could be relevant. It was time to confront my own shadows. I reached out to an old friend from high school, Mike, someone I hadn't seen in years but who was always the trustworthy type. Mike agreed to meet me at a local coffee shop, and as we sat down, I could see the surprise in his eyes. Jake? It's been ages. What's going on? He asked, concern evident in his voice. I took a deep breath. I need your help, Mike. It's about Marcus Thompson and some really serious stuff. Can you trust me? He nodded, leaning in closer. Of course. You know I've got your back. What's happening? I recounted everything, from Emily's infidelity to the criminal activities, the confrontation with Marcus, and now Sarah's betrayal. Mike listened intently, his expression growing more serious with each detail. When did you last see Emily? He asked. Before she went missing. Last week, after everything with Marcus, I replied, frustration creeping into my voice. Mike thought for a moment. Do you think this could be related to something from your past? Anything that Marcus could be using against you? I hesitated, then nodded slowly. There was something, a few years back. I had some financial troubles, got involved with a sketchy investment group. I thought I had gotten out of it, but maybe I didn't. His eyes widened. Jake, that sounds like something Marcus would be interested in. If you had any ties to illegal activities, he could be leveraging that. I felt a chill run down my spine. What do you suggest? Mike reached into his bag and pulled out a small, worn notebook. This was mine back in high school. I kept records of everything, including the investment group you mentioned. Maybe there's something in here that can help us trace their connections. I took the notebook, flipping through the pages. Sure enough, there were names, dates, and transactions that matched the vague memories I had of that period. With Mike's help, we started cross-referencing the information, looking for any links to Marcus or his network. Hours passed as we pieced together the puzzle, uncovering connections that led us to a local real estate mogul named David Harris, a name that kept resurfacing in both my past and Marcus's dealings. It seemed like David was the missing link, someone who could tie everything together. Just as we were about to call it a night, Mike's phone rang. He answered, listening intently before turning to me with a grim expression. "Jake, you need to see this." He handed me the phone, and I saw a text from Emily, "Help me before it's too late. David Harris knows everything." My heart sank. David Harris. He's involved? Mike nodded. Looks like it. We need to find Emily and stop David before he uses any more information against you. Determined to save Emily and clear my name, I knew there was no turning back. The shadows of my past were converging with the chaos of the present, and it was up to me to navigate through them. With Mike by my side and Agent Mitchell's support, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. But as I looked into Mike's eyes, I couldn't shake the feeling that uncovering these secrets would come at an even greater cost. The legal maze had become a labyrinth of betrayal, danger, and dark memories, and the path forward was anything but clear.